As I told the Speaker this summer, I'm prepared to make more reforms that rein in the long-term costs of Medicare and Medicaid and strengthen Social Security. But in return, we need to change our tax code so that people like me and an awful lot of members of Congress pay our fair share of taxes.
All right, we have Speaker John Boehner on the line, who I know is itching to respond to that. Okay, Speaker Boehner, he'll work with you if you agree to raise people's taxes. Is that a deal?
Well, let's see his proposal. That's all I would say. The president talks a good game, but it takes two to tango. And the president would never say yes to real entitlement reforms when we had our discussions last summer. And so I'm game, but where's the president's proposal?
But you're not game to agree to tax increases, are you?
No, we're not going to raise taxes. We're not going to raise taxes, but we can generate additional revenue if we bring our tax code into a more competitive state, flatter, fairer. It'll generate more economic growth. It'll be more efficient, and there's revenue that can be had. But I told the president I wasn't putting any revenue on the table unless there were real controls on spending and real changes to our entitlement programs.
What do you make of the president's reference to the military? He talked a lot about the military. Obviously, bin Laden was taken out and all that. It was an interesting way to begin the speech, and we all love the military. But 2 hours before the State of the Union, he was raising money. He was sending out a fundraiser, which made this thing look much more political than just here's the State of the Union. He goes on to say, well, look at how these military guys work together to get bin Laden and get the mission done. Why can't we work together like the military to get the mission done? Did you find that to be distasteful in the use of the military analogy there?
I was a bit confused at the beginning of the speech in terms of why he started there. But listen, we're willing to work with the president. We've passed 30 jobs bills here in the House. They're sitting over in the United States Senate. Many of them were endorsed last week by the president's own Jobs Council. And the president acted last night as if this was the first year of his presidency. Acted as if he'd been backpacking around Europe the last 3 years. Wants to take no responsibility for his policies that have failed, and made no reference last night to really stepping into the game and legislating. He has spent every day since last Labor Day campaigning, not legislating, not involved in the process of our government here. And last night was just another campaign speech. All he did was double down on the same failed policies of the past. More spending, more taxes, more regulations.
Well,
he can try to change the subject, but this year's going to be a referendum on his economic record. It has failed to improve the economy. In fact, it's made it worse.
Well, he said this at one point. It's kind of in the middle of the speech about what he plans to do.
With or without this Congress, I will keep taking actions that help the economy grow. But I can do a whole lot more with your help. Because when we act together, there's nothing the United States of America can achieve.
At that point, you look like you wanted to reach for an air sickness bag, Speaker Boehner.
All I'm trying to do on the night of the State of the Union is not be an issue.
No.
So I just stare at the back of the president's head. I try to have no expression whatsoever, and just try to stay out of the way.
Were you and Biden playing hangman at any point during the? It looked like you guys were playing Pong or something back there. I didn't know what was going on.
No. There was
kicking
no
each other.
No conversation. No kicking each other during the speech.
But what do you say? I mean, this was supposed to be a change from my way or the highway. That's how he characterized the Bush administration, right? But it seems to be kind of my way or the highway there. It's like, look, I'm going to do all this stuff alone unless you agree to doing it my way. And my question to you, Speaker Boehner, is how do you counter that? I mean, he is a master showman. There's no doubt about it. He is the master of the razzle-dazzle. So how do you, Speaker Boehner, get the upper hand in this situation?
Listen, we have offered to work with the president. Work through his policies, but he's got to come to the table. And someone asked me yesterday, when was the last time he talked to the president? And I think it was December 23rd, right on the eve of getting an agreement on the payroll tax credit bill. He's got to be involved, and it's pretty clear to me that he hasn't been involved for the last 4 months. And unless I see something here in the near future, I have no indications that he actually wants to sit down and work with us.
Is our country not in decline, as the president indicated last night?
Listen, the future is bleaker for our kids and grandkids because Washington's gotten too big. It's gotten too expensive. It's tying up the whole country in more regulations. And if we're serious about getting our economy moving again, we need to fundamentally change our tax code. We need to stop the regulatory onslaught and require every new regulation to have some cost-benefit analysis so we know whether it's worth it to our economy. We've got to create more certainty here in Washington, D.C. We don't need a bigger government and a more intrusive government, which is exactly what the president called for last night.
The income inequality argument is obviously going to be the centerpiece of his reelection effort, that the differences between the upper income and the lower income are getting wider, and this is causing great angst among the people. And he responds to that, obviously, by saying, we need to make it fairer, and people have to do their fair share and give their fair share to heal this country. How do the Republicans make a better argument in response to this than just saying, well, we're not going to raise people's taxes? Because I think he's going to make a populist push, and you saw kind of some populist proposals sprinkled throughout the speech, Mr. Speaker.
Well, President Kennedy in 1960 said, a rising tide lifts all boats. And I think that that is, in fact, correct. We need to help every American. Our job here is not to divide the American people. It's not to create envy amongst the American people. It's to help every American have a fair shot at the American dream. And to raise taxes, to fuel more spending and to fuel more regulations is not what the American people want.
The payroll tax holiday issue was mentioned by the president very defiantly, saying, get this done, I will sign it. Do you, as Speaker of the House, believe that continuing with this, quote, holiday of people paying into the Social Security system is the right way to go?
Well, the president called for it. Our team did exactly what the president asked for. Gave him a one-year payroll tax credit, unemployment insurance extension with reforms, and the so-called doc fix. But we offset all of that spending and replenished the drain on the Social Security Trust Fund. And there's no reason why we can't, here in the next 3 weeks, come to an agreement that would fund this for the balance of the year. It ought to be done, and it can be done.
How is your working relationship with other members of Congress now? I know it's a difficult thing. You have all these different groups. You have the Tea Party caucus. You have people who are more kind of foreign policy hawks, and everyone's pointing fingers at everybody else at the end of the year. Steve King came on our show a couple weeks back and said it was Cantor, and I guess he mentioned you. You were the reason for the gridlock, and then I hear different stories from others. How do you work with this group if it seems like to me that you all can't agree on the basics sometimes?
Well, it's hard to keep all 242 of us, 242 frogs in the wheelbarrow all at the same time. But listen, what unites us is our desire for a smaller, less costly, and less intrusive government here in Washington, D.C. And we've got some members who want a little more every day, some want a little less. And my job is to try to mold this group into an effective force. We've had our ups and downs as the year went on. But when you look at what we were able to accomplish by stopping all of the new crazy ideas coming out of this administration, cutting almost $100 billion in spending, pardon me?
No, I'm sorry. I'm not. That's. I think you're getting a time cue.
All right, over $100 billion in spending, and then you look at we took one little step towards solving our fiscal crisis with the Budget Control Act last summer. We've got a lot more work to do. We've just got to continue to keep our eye focused on the ball.
Hey, Pelosi says she knows something about Newt, so he won't be president.
I have no idea what she's referring to, but it's Nancy Pelosi. Who knows?
Speaker John Boehner, I'm glad you survived last night. Speaker, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Bye, Laura.